She was Tupac Shakur's wife. Keisha Morris Shakur is the only woman who can ever make that claim. Now, for the first time on television, Keisha is breaking her silence. In her first in-depth interview, she opens up about her life with Tupac, what really happened behind closed doors, and why their marriage ended almost as soon as it began. It didn't work. Not because of jail, not because of her or me. It just wasn't the right thing at the time. I married her for the wrong reasons. 28 years after Tupac's death, his former wife is finally telling her side of the story, and what she reveals challenges everything fans thought they knew. Behind the outlaw image and revolutionary lyrics was a man living a double life, emotionally dependent, fiercely private, and struggling with inner demons that tore their marriage apart the moment he walked free from prison. Even Tupac's closest friends admit they never fully understood why he left Keisha. But she does, and now she's ready to say it out loud. It was convenient at the time. He was in jail. People don't really know what our relationship was like. But we did. For years, fans romanticized Tupac and Keisha as a tragic love story cut short by fate. But the truth, confirmed by those closest to them, is far messier, far more human, and far more shocking. While Keisha stood by him during his incarceration, emotionally supporting him, holding his life together, Tupac lived by a code few dared to question. He was loyal in his own way, but he was also a ladies' man. And nowhere is that contradiction clearer than in one revelation that still stuns people who knew them both. I just want him remembered in a positive way. There was a lot more good than bad. Insiders revealed Tupac would sometimes ask his own wife to call other women for him, openly, casually, even on three-way calls. Not in secret, not behind her back, as if it were normal. One friend put it bluntly, Pac was cold with them girls. He was a player. That's just what it was. To those close to the couple, it wasn't framed as betrayal. It was simply who Tupac was. Unpredictable, magnetic, emotionally complex, and not ready to give up the attention that came with fame. And the most shocking part? Keisha wasn't just tolerating it. She was helping him maintain those connections. One insider revealed that Keisha herself arranged for another woman, Desiree, to visit Tupac in prison. That wasn't jealousy. That wasn't weakness. That was loyalty, on a level very few people could understand. But Tupac was also deeply private. Whatever he went through with Keisha, whatever struggles or conflict existed, he kept them to himself. He never spoke badly about her. Not publicly, not privately, and that matters. People who were closest to Tupac say they never once heard him say a negative word about Keisha Morris, even after the annulment. That silence speaks volumes. It makes one thing painfully clear. Tupac's behavior was never about cruelty. It was about chaos. Emotional chaos. Romantic chaos. Personal chaos. And Keisha was living inside that storm long before the world ever knew it existed. I never heard him say anything bad about her. Even after everything, it was always respectful. What shocks people most is that no one in Tupac's inner circle knew why the marriage ended. The annulment came out of nowhere. No public fight. No scandal. No drama. One day, he was married. The next, he wasn't. And still no explanation. We just knew he was married, then suddenly divorced. And nobody ever spoke negatively about it. Those closest to him believe the truth is both simple and painful. The marriage worked in prison. It didn't work in freedom. While Tupac was incarcerated, he needed emotional stability. Someone to ground him, answer every call, carry the weight he couldn't show anyone else. Keisha became that lifeline. But once he walked out of prison, everything changed. Death row, fame, money, pressure, a lifestyle moving too fast for a relationship built inside visiting rooms and phone calls. One insider explained it clearly. When Pac was done, he was done. But with Keisha, it wasn't like that. They were still friends. Keisha later confirmed what many suspected. Once Tupac was free, she no longer felt needed. The emotional dependence he had inside prison disappeared the moment the outside world rushed back in. Fame replaced vulnerability. Momentum replaced intimacy. Their split wasn't explosive. It wasn't bitter. It was quiet, sudden, unexplained, a marriage that ended without a villain, without closure, even for the people closest to them. I'm not seeking anything from him. No money, no compensation. Their divorce was finalized in March of 1996. But what many people forget is this. Keisha didn't just support Tupac. She held his life together. While he sat behind bars, she paused her own future, rearranged her entire life around prison visits, took every call, absorbed the fear, the stress, the pressure of a man facing multiple legal battles at once. While the world judged him, she carried a version of Tupac no one else saw. Even insiders revealed something that stunned people years later. Keisha herself arranged for another woman to visit Tupac in prison, not out of weakness, not jealousy, but loyalty. Inside those walls, Tupac leaned on Keisha in a way he leaned on no one else. She wasn't a fan. She wasn't a fling. She was his anchor, the one person he trusted with the most vulnerable version of himself. And that emotional dependence explains everything. Why things shifted so sharply once he no longer needed that same lifeline. Pac never saw himself as a coward. He wouldn't do anything sneaky. That wasn't who he was. Tupac and Keisha's wedding was never a fairy tale. It was survival. They were married on April 29, 1995, inside Clinton Correctional Facility. Concrete floors. Guards nearby. A man unsure if he'd ever walk free. This wasn't performance. This wasn't image. This was Tupac stripped of the legend, emotional, uncertain, and brutally honest in ways the public never saw. I was with him through some of the hardest times of his life. I was his backbone. Behind prison walls, Tupac showed Keisha everything he hid from the world. And that version of him, the one few ever knew, may be the truest Tupac of all. He talked about wanting a quiet life after his release. But he spoke like someone who didn't believe he'd live long enough to see it. Tupac carried real fear, real insecurity, real vulnerability. And Keisha wasn't just his wife on paper. She became the only person he trusted with those thoughts. Jail wasn't the right time. I married her for the wrong reasons. What were the reasons? I cared about her, but I married her because I was in jail. I was alone, and I didn't want to be alone. People close to them say the marriage made sense in that environment. Tupac needed stability, and Keisha became that stability. But a marriage built in confinement has a different heartbeat. It works when the world is locked out, when days are controlled, when chaos can't reach you. The real test comes when the gates open. Inside prison, Tupac and Keisha lived in a reality completely separate from the outside world. Their relationship didn't grow in studios, hotel rooms, or red carpets. It grew in visiting rooms, under fluorescent lights, with time limits and guards watching. In that space, Tupac depended on Keisha in a way he never depended on anyone else. She became his routine, his reassurance, his proof that someone still cared when everything else felt hostile. Very gentle, very kind. The public perception of him was negative, but he never gave me that version of himself. Not once. Prison stripped Tupac of fame, distractions, and ego. And in that stripped-down state, Keisha saw a version of him no one else ever did. With her, he wasn't explosive. He wasn't performing. He was quiet. He was honest. He spoke about fears he never shared publicly, including the fear that he might not survive long enough to turn his dreams into reality. Their bond became intense. Isolated. A relationship built on emotional survival, not celebrity fantasy. And that's why it felt real. Until freedom arrived and rewrote everything. When Tupac got out, he just went straight to the studio. That's all he did. When Tupac walked out of prison, everything changed. Keisha expected their life together to finally begin. Instead, fame took over. Death row took over. The chaos never stopped. The calls faded. The closeness disappeared. The man who once depended on her emotionally no longer had space for her at all. Freedom didn't save their relationship. It erased a version of it that had existed behind bars. For tax reasons, lawsuits, it just wasn't working out. We said we'd try again once he was released. We really did. Keisha felt it happening in real time. She went from being the person Tupac trusted with his darkest fears to someone standing on the outside of a whirlwind, watching him get consumed by music business and a dangerous new world moving too fast for love to survive. Her own words cut straight to the truth. I felt like I wasn't needed anymore. That was the reality no one wanted to say out loud. Freedom didn't free their marriage. It exposed it. Their connection worked when the world was locked out. Once the doors opened, everything changed. Divorcing someone and having the marriage annulled, that's what my lawyers advised. They said it would be in my best interest, for tax reasons, for lawsuits. As Tupac's life accelerated, Keisha watched their marriage shrink into silence. There were no explosive fights, no dramatic confrontations, just a slow fading that hurt more than any argument ever could. The man who once called her from prison with urgency now went days without speaking. The emotional intensity they built behind bars couldn't survive the speed of his new reality. Keisha felt the distance before anyone else did. She tried to keep up, but the gap kept widening. Tupac's attention was pulled in every direction: music, pressure, danger, and the constant weight of being Tupac Shakur. And she was slipping further out of focus. What hurt most was how simple it was. He didn't need her the way he once had, and she knew it. Their marriage didn't explode. It dissolved, slowly, quietly, painfully, until there was nothing left to hold on to. Why did you annul it? Because we were going through difficult times, tax reasons, lawsuits. The annulment happened quickly and without explanation. No scandal, no public fallout, just a silent ending that left even Tupac's closest friends confused. They all said the same thing: we never knew what happened. Tupac never blamed her. Keisha never attacked him. That silence was the biggest clue of all. The marriage didn't fail because of betrayal. It failed because it couldn't survive the world Tupac returned to. Death row, nonstop pressure, a dangerous, fast-moving environment. The emotional bond that worked in confinement collapsed in real life. Keisha summed it up in a single sentence: we were young, and our lives were moving in different directions. He would apologize, and their connection would continue. Even after the marriage, they still found their way back to each other. Tupac was the kind of person who, once he was truly done with someone, that was it. But that wasn't the case with Keisha. Even after the annulment, he didn't cut her off. He still called. He still checked in. He played her new music and kept her in his life quietly, privately. Their marriage ended, but the trust didn't. She remained someone he felt safe reaching out to when the noise around him became overwhelming. Keisha later revealed a side of Tupac that shocked people who only knew the public image. He cooked simple meals. He tore open pomegranates, juice spilling everywhere. He bought gifts that were thoughtful and personal, not flashy. He wasn't the explosive caricature the media sold. He was observant, gentle, emotionally open in ways few ever saw. They remained friends right up until the end. She was with him just one day before he was shot, spending time together in New York at the Nico. Nothing felt final. Nothing felt like goodbye. What stays with her most is how Tupac spoke like a man who didn't expect to live long. At the time, it sounded like fear. After his death, it sounded like truth. Her regret wasn't losing the marriage. It was losing time she never imagined would run out so quickly. After Tupac's death, Keisha didn't chase attention or headlines. She stepped away from the spotlight, finished her education, and dedicated her life to youth advocacy, building stability and purpose, a future that closely resembled the one Tupac once said he hoped to live. There was always mutual respect between them. Tupac knew her family. She knew his world. Even after everything, they remained connected with warmth, not resentment. Looking back, she doesn't rewrite history or dramatize what they shared. She simply acknowledges the truth. They were young. Their lives moved fast. And what they had was real while it lasted. No bitterness. No accusations. Just acceptance. Her voice leaves us with one final question. If you knew the person you loved might be gone tomorrow, would you love them any differently today? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.